You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
All right, a remote meeting of the RTM will be convened on Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to consider and act upon the following matters. Item 1 will be the roll call. The clerk will do the roll call. Donna?
Mr. Moderator, Representative Brockett, point of order.
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. I have an American flag behind me. I would ask that you direct everybody to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, we'll do that. I guess if everybody doesn't have an issue with that, will everybody? Somebody's talking. They have to mute there. Will everybody please rise and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
With flag.
of the United States
of America,
United States of
the
America.
Republic
and the republic
And
Liberty.
justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
That was the most pathetic pledge you've ever heard.
Yeah, right.
Now, Representative Brockett, you tried.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, continuing with the roll call, Representative Leach will do the roll call.
Okay, roll call. Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, present.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, present.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson is present.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin is present.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, present.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett's present.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin is present.
Representative Everson, Representative Everson, not present. Okay. Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, present.
Representative Flanagan,
Representative Flanagan, present.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg present.
Representative Haken,
Representative Aiken present.
Representative Healy, is Representative Healy present? No, okay. Representative Henschel,
I'm in the room.
Representative Henschel, present.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines is present.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, present.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, present.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, present.
Representative Leach is present. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi present.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet is present.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio, present.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember is present.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires present.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro present.
Representative Stepanek, Representative Stepanek absent. Representative Sullivan.
Representative Stepanek is present.
Oh, thank you. Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan is present.
thank you. Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli is present.
thank you. Representative Toohill
Representative Toohill, present.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells is present.
Okay, let me just go back and check. Did Representative Healy sign in? No. And Representative Everson?
Representative Everson, present.
Okay, thank you. And First Selectman Cosgrove is present. I thought I saw him.
Present.
Thank you. And Representative Dunbar is present, and Town Clerk Arpin is present.
Town Clerk Arpin, present.
Thank you.
Representative
Okay.
Leach, you also have the Finance Director, I believe, James Finch is here also.
Okay, thank you.
Can we make a request right now that everybody mute people who aren't muted? Thank you.
So Representative, this is Representative Flanagan, Representative Leach. We have enough for, obviously, for a quorum. Is that correct?
Correct. I have only one person not here, so when Representative Healy comes, if he signs in, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Representative Flanagan. Okay, item number 2, the Board of Finance approved the following budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Board of Education operating budget, $58,828,962. Board of Education capital and leases, $455,000 for a total of $59,283,962. Town departments, $58,954,481 for a total of $118,283,443. Representative, I talked to the Finance Director. Jim, are these totals correct? Mr. Finch, are you there?
That just took me a second to unmute, Dennis. Yes, they are.
Okay,
Mr. Moderator, it's Representative Ingraham.
go ahead, Representative Ingham.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to start off by thanking all the members of the RTM for hard work on getting through this whole budget process during this time of learning new things with new meetings and all. Especially like to thank the chairman of our committees who did yeoman's work since pretty much January, February, working with the Board of Finance, working with all their committees and getting the meetings done. With that, I'll put in the form of a motion to approve the dollars as presented by the Board of Finance.
Is there a second?
Anyone?
I second. Tricia Anderson, I second.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we will now continue with the committee reports. The first committee that we'll hear will be the Education Committee. Representative Toohill.
You're muted, Frank.
Representative Toohill, are you there?
I'm
There you
here,
go.
Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The RTM Education Committee met on April 6th and May 4th to consider all the budgets before us. Present were Representatives Preet, Jackson, Sumro, Anderson, Hines, Sember, and myself, Representative Toohill. The only changes that we made were to the Board of Education capital and to the James Blackstone Library. So I will first report on the changes to the to the Board of Education capital. The capital to the Board of Education was reduced by $101,084. The vote was 7-0. The changes that the RTM Education Committee made were as follows. We took out the capital request for bleachers of $55,000. We took out $40,000 from the early years program at the Indian Next School, and we took out $6,084 from the van that the Board of Education was looking to buy. So that's our total. So what the total taken out of capital by the Education Committee was $101,084. Okay, so those were the only changes to the Board of Ed. And I put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator, does that include the Blackstone Library?
Dennis, you're muted. This is Representative here. Representative Jackson, we vote on the Board of Ed by itself, then we go into the rest of the town. I think that's what Dennis was trying to say while he was muted. Go ahead, start over, Dennis.
Okay. All right, Representative Toohill.
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. Go ahead with your motion.
Okay, well, you want to hear the whole thing again?
No.
No.
Well, what do you want to hear then, sir?
He already made the motion, Dennis, for the Board of Education.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any discussion from any members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan. I just have a question or two.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator, either to Chairman Toohill or possibly Superintendent Hernandez, who I saw in the room, I believe. I wasn't able to make the Education Committee meeting, and I just wanted to ask a couple questions about the operating budget, and if there was if that budget included any expected or looming staff retirements. And then as a follow-up to that, is there any sort of practice or that the Board of Ed follows or uses for buying out contracts for staff that may be close to retirement, which maybe would have some savings to the budget as newer staff would have smaller salaries? Thank you.
This is Superintendent Hernandez. Mr. Sullivan, I appreciate the question. The first part of the question, does the budget consider the retirements? Yes, it does. It considers the retirements that we have at the time that we did the budget. Secondly, is it still possible for us to get a retirement from now until June 30th? Yes, that is possible. And secondly, or thirdly, I should say, regarding buying out teachers that are close to retirement, that's commonly referred to as the Ohio plan, where you purchased your years of service. The board did that way before I arrived. It is not necessarily a cost savings. There are other potential mechanisms that can be considered retirement incentives, but do not add to years of service. The board did not contemplate that. Typically, that type of an incentive is usually around medical health insurance. And given the fluidity of the medical self-insurance and medical insurance itself, the board did contemplate it, but I would say for a very short period of time. And we determined that it was not in our best interest to offer that at this point. I hope that answers your question, Chris.
Yes, this is Representative Sullivan. That answers the question. It's mostly a point of curiosity, so I appreciate the information and candor.
Of course, of course.
You said that it did consider retirements. Is there a rough number of how many there are expected to retire?
I think this budget has 4 retirements in it, but if don't quote me on that. It's either 3 or 4.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Again, just mostly curiosity.
Any other comments from members of the RTM? Hearing none, any comments from the public?
Mr. Moderator, Lisa Arpin, Town Clerk. We have someone from the public who would like to speak.
Hello.
Is this an okay time?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. I would like to speak about the Branford Library.
Excuse me, this is Town Clerk Lisa Arpin. Please state your name and address, please, for the record. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. My name is Krista Lehr, Lehr, and my address is 10 Avon Road, Branford, Connecticut. Obviously, so I'm in District 6.
Mr. Moderator, we're on the Board of Education.
Yes, Mrs. Lear, we're doing the Board of Education portion. We're not on the Blackstone as yet.
Sure, sure. Sorry about that. I will wait. My apologies.
Is there any other public comments on the education portion of the budget?
Mr. Moderator,
Who's speaking?
Wayne Cook.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I got a question for you. You said you were going to go to committee. Is this the education committee that you're voting on, or is it something that's larger than that in terms of the entire Board of Education?
Dennis Flanagan here. Wayne, this is strictly the education portion of the committee.
Okay. I'm confused because I'm not as well versed as you guys are. So in other words, the Franks committee, Representative Toohill's committee, oversees this entire budget?
He oversees the education portion of the budget, correct?
Which is what you're working on now, the 59 million.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
50.
Any other comment and public comments? Hearing none, Representative Toohill, anything else to add to this?
No, not really. I mean, it's been thoroughly looked at. I think we have our schools and the staff, I think, are great in town. I think that the schools are, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, right, that the schools, they can provide the excellence to the students, but the students, they have to avail themselves of it, So I believe that it's all there. You just have to take advantage of it. And I also urge that you all support this. Thank you.
All right, hearing none, Representative Flanagan here, hearing none, no further comments on this. This will be a roll call vote. Representative Leach, are you there?
Okay, I'm ready. Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, no.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, no.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, no.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, no.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, no.
Representative Healy. Oh, sorry, absent. Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, no.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, no.
Representative Kelly, Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, no. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, no.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember, no.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, no.
Representative Stepanek,
Representative Stepanek, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
This is Representative Sullivan, no.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli, no.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill, yes.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells, yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 15 yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 13 no.
Okay, Representative Flanagan, the amendment passes. Representative Toohill, you can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the RTM Education Committee also heard the budgets for the school age child care fund, which will take up in a few minutes. We also heard from the Blackstone Library as well as the Willoughby Wallace Library. We'll start with the Willoughby Wallace. The vote to approve the Willoughby Wallace as presented to us by the Board of Finance was 7-0. It's an increase on there of 1.8%, 4,331 to 250,068. I put that in the form of a motion. You want to do that at this time?
Mr. Moderator, point of order, Representative Ingraham. Lisa, you have to leave Dennis unmuted.
Yeah. All right, Representative Flanagan, go ahead, Representative Ingraham.
It's, yeah, like I thought the process, we would only announce the changes in the budget, not vote on each individual budget. Thank you.
That's correct, Representative Ingraham. Representative Toohill, just make your motion on any changes you did.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. All right. The only changes then that we made, there was 2 changes to the Blackstone. There was 1 change made to operating, and there was a change made to their capital request. So the operating came to us with an increase as recommended by the Board of Finance of 3.1% or $45,000 more. The total the Board of Finance recommended to us was $1,488,962. We learned that the Blackstone Library anticipates for fiscal year 20, this current fiscal year, they anticipate a surplus, an operating surplus of $99,000. So by a vote of 4-3 tonight, the Education Committee, we'd like to make the recommendation to the full RTM that we maintain the current level of contribution to the Blackstone, which is, that is $1,443,962. And I'll put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan here, so that's an amendment there, Representative Toohill?
That's correct, sir. This is Frank Toohill.
Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
Representative Black here, point of order. Are we going to vote on every committee report individually, or are we going to roll them up into one motion at the end?
Representative Flanagan here. We're going to do each committee separately, Representative Black, and then we'll do one motion at the end.
Mr. Moderator, I'm confused. I'd like to amend that resolution. Is that possible at this time?
Yes, it is.
Well,
State your name. This is Lisa Arpin.
this is Representative Jackson, and I would like to amend that resolution to revert back to the Board of Finance recommendation, which is $1,488,962 for the operating budget, and also the recommended capital budget that came through the Board of Finance also. And that's in the form of a motion, I think.
Is Representative Flanagan, is there a second on that amendment to the amendment?
This is Representative Henschel. I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment to the amendment from members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan.
Representative Sullivan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in support of the amendment made by Representative Jackson. I think that we're listening to a game of semantics from Representative Toohill about maintaining the current level of funding when it's actually a cut to the request from the Blackstone Library's budget request. This body just recently approved significant expenditures to replace the roof at the Blackstone Library. And I really think it's kind of foolhardy to now nickel and dime the operating budget for the Blackstone Library, which is a treasure in this community. And I'm wondering if the members that are in favor of these reductions to the Blackstone Library are going to also voice similar concerns for other departments and their contracting issues or other concessions that they're asking for from the Blackstone Library, and what I see as members trying to micromanage the budget of the library and not treating it in a similar fashion to the other budgets that are being heard before this RTM tonight. So I'm in favor of Representative Jackson's motion to reinstate the funding as requested by the Blackstone Library. Thank you.
And approved by the board.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator.
Representative Jackson, go ahead.
In a positive way, I would just like to say that the Blackstone Library, at this particular point in time, serves an even greater function than it normally does, and it just seems like the idea of micromanaging the budget is totally uncalled for. This is a time when a lot of citizens, the unemployment rate in this town is huge. People need the services that the library offers. The library is truly geared up for this now. We've had an enormous amount of support registered to us all, both Democrat and Republican. It just seems like year after year, a certain faction of the RTM goes after the library particularly. And I don't think it's called, especially this year, not called for. So I urge the adoption of the amendment.
Any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to this?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator.
Representative Preet.
Representative Preet, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, Mr. Moderator, if I can comment, I'd like to try and head off a back to forth tonight, because at the subcommittee meeting, we did explain in detail the logic behind our changes. So there was a clear reason for our actions. And rather than get into a back and forth here tonight and talk about micromanaging and going after the library, I want to try and explain to the folks here on this body who weren't at the subcommittee meeting, who didn't hear the rationale, and also some of the residents I know that are on the call tonight. So if I can start with a $99,000 surplus and kind of let that resonate for a minute. Our job is not to rubber stamp the Board of Finance submitted budget, as the library director and some of the RTM representatives are suggesting. Our main responsibility as RTM members is to go through the various town department budgets thoughtfully, thoroughly, prudently, while being mindful of the residents' ability to pay. That's our job. That's what we're elected to do. So when we're criticized for scrutinizing the library's budget, I'd have to ask Representative Jackson, why hasn't he done that? That's his job. And if he thinks some of us are scrutinizing the library, I suggest he sits down someday and has a chat with the superintendent and with Mr. Neal and see what we do to the Board of Ed. $99,000 surplus. Nobody wants the library to fail, and nobody on the subcommittee disputes the facts that the library is a beloved institution, it's well respected, and it's an asset to the town of Branford. However, when it comes to developing and executing a $1.5 million budget, they need some help. They asked the residents to fund an 85% of their budget, but the residents have little or no say in how that money is spent. No one is cutting their budget. No one is suggesting that they draw down, excuse me, more dollars from their endowment. No one's asking them to do more fundraising, and no one's punishing them for being frugal. We're merely suggesting they use another revenue source other than the town taxpayers. With a $99,000 surplus, they not only have the money to fund their additional $45,000 request, but they also have the means to fund their entire capital budget for next year. We were accused of making some baseless and misleading statements regarding the library's fiscal responsibility. So let me put out the facts of what was discussed on May 4th. When we were presented with the operating budget's highlights, the numbers that were presented, the numbers that we base our decisions on, and the numbers that you guys are taxed on were called into question. The response from the library board was, well, these are just numbers and numbers change. When we asked why security cameras are costing $4,400 each this year, $1,800 each next year, the response was, well, that's just a guess. All other town departments, including the Board of Education, returned their surplus. Not so with the Blackstone. So when we asked why not use your surplus to fund your request for next year, the response was, if you're going to punish us for being prudent, then next year we'll just spend it all. Additionally, the renovation project included a youth service area, but no dollars were set aside for computers. The renovation added additional square footage, but no dollars were set aside for fixtures. And the renovation added a beautiful rooftop terrace, but no dollars to fix a leaky roof. So I ask you, are any of those statements misleading? The facts are the facts. So we're not micromanaging, we're not attacking. Debate the facts. The subcommittee can defend their adjustments. And using terms like modest increase, no clear reasons, baseless misleading implications, those statements are both irresponsible and reckless. We're in some hard times, and there's times that none of us, I think, could even have imagined. And with the economic uncertainties comes some hard decisions. This isn't personal, as Representative Jackson implies. It isn't political. It's simple math. You have a surplus that can fund all that you want to do next year, and then some, without putting any additional burden on the taxpayers. The same taxpayers that you guys are apparently so concerned with. So I'm imploring this body to do right by our citizens. Do what we were elected to do. Make the appropriate adjustments without sacrificing any services, and support the recommendations of the Education Subcommittee. Thank you.
Anyone else from the RTM that wishes to speak to this amendment by Representative Jackson?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you. This is Representative Brockett. I would note that libraries are valuable assets for many reasons. One of them is that the library is a place where if you need help, all you have to do is ask. It is surprising that now that the library is asking for our support, Republican majority wants to say no. At the recent Board of Finance meeting, the Blackstone Library's budget request was approved unanimously. However, when the Education Committee of the RTM reviewed the proposal, Chairman Frank Toohill proposed a motion to reduce the library's operating
Let
budget.
them spend their powder.
I stand in support of the amendment to fully fund our library based on the Board of Finance recommendation and the outstanding work performed by our library staff. I ask all of you to do the same. Very little, if any, rationale was offered to support this misguided recommendation to reduce funding. It appears that the reasoning may be that the Board of Trustees and the staff of the Blackstone Library have done too good of a job being fiscally responsible. They have informed us that there may be a surplus in the library's budget this fiscal year. So this recommendation from Mr. Toohill seems to be based on a projected surplus. And that is what it is. It is a projected surplus. We still have another month and a half to go before the end of the fiscal year. I think we can all agree that this is simply bad policy. As noted by Library Director Karen Jensen, it fosters a spend-it-all paradigm that is counterproductive. It creates a disincentive for effective management and fiscal responsibility. As I stated, in this challenging economic environment, our library has reported that they anticipate a budget by the end of the year. There are several reasons for this. Donation revenue exceeded expectations thanks to the generosity of Branford Library supporters and friends. Salary savings were achieved by reallocating staff and the reduction of full-time employee to part-time status. Health insurance savings were achieved concurrent with staffing changes. Most importantly, the board and the staff practiced prudent and exemplary fiscal responsibility. The James Blackstone Library is widely known as one of the finest libraries in New England, and we need to be good stewards of this asset. Its educational value to our residents is unmatched. Our historic library provides an array of resources to students and adults. Here are just a few ways the library could use funds to provide services not included in their budget. Improving public access to online resources. Updating technology to provide easier access materials. Adding a new computer lab, including software to serve the needs of the students of all ages. Replacing shelving in the children area, which is currently 20 years old and in poor condition. Purchasing a smart board for the conference room and a self-checkout station. This recommendation to cut the library budget simply makes no sense. This is especially so given that we are smack in the middle of an economic and public health crisis that will undoubtedly put higher demands on the library's educational program and online services. What is more, this is the only operating budget that suffered a cut from the recommendation on the Board of Finance. It is time for the Republican majority to stop nitpicking the library funding. While some may state that they are performing their due diligence, I'm not buying that argument. I call BS. If those same individuals were judicious about other town budgets, the Public Works Director position would have been removed from the budget years ago. As we all know, this vacant position has been fully funded for the past 4 years to the tune of over $400,000 taxpayer dollars, and it still remains a ghost position.
Representative Brockett, I hate to interrupt you for a second, but let's stick to the motion that's on the floor.
It is relevant to the motion. On a personal note, I would like to thank the Library Director, Karen Jensen, for her dedication and leadership. I also want to thank the Board of Trustees for their commitment to making the James Blackstone Library a true gem. You have all stepped up again and again to provide our citizens with a library in which we all take great pride. Now is the time for the RTM to step up and vote yes for this amendment to fund our library. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, is there any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to this item?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to just point out that it seems like the whole rationale behind cutting this particular budget is the fact that the library is experiencing or may experience a surplus this year. And I think it's very disingenuous to suggest that although other departments, if they have a surplus, have to return it to the general fund, that the library doesn't, and that we're not asking the library to take it out of their endowment. But in fact, we are, because the surplus, if it's not spent, if there is a surplus, does go back into the endowment. That's my understanding, and that would increase the longevity of that endowment. So I think basing this cut on the idea that it's not needed because there's going to be a surplus has a kind of flawed logic to it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to this?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Everson.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to speak in support of this amendment. I've heard from numerous constituents who are encouraging the RTM to adopt the Board of Finance's proposed Blackstone Library budget. I'd like to share some of the comments that I have heard from my constituents. One wrote, given that the Board of Finance determined that the Blackstone budget as submitted was reasonable and affordable for the town, there is no rationale for imposing a reduction in library services to Branford citizens in the coming year. Another said, aside from being iconic, the library is symbolic. I can think of no other physical place that is as inclusive. Everyone is welcome, regardless of age, race, economic status, or education. Still another said the Blackstone has adapted to the changing times, pointing out that in spite of the obstacles, the library is providing services that bring happiness and educate the residents of the town. She participated in a Zoom presentation on no-till gardening last week. That's pretty inventive. Another constituent questioned the Education Committee's amendment that keeps the Blackstone's budget at the previous year's funding level. This action in no way, they said, recognized the shortfall in the revenues that the library could be facing and how even more necessary the increase is for continued excellence of the Blackstone Library. And lastly, one wrote so eloquently about the Blackstone, the library is the heart of the town, and I hope that you reconsider your votes so as not to silence Branford's heartbeat. I will vote in favor of the amendment. Thank you.
Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak to this amendment?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Riccio.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I do have a statement, and during my statement, I will be directing some questions to some of the other representatives, so I want to make note of that. I will be supporting the reduction in the amount of money that the Blackstone Library is requesting. I want the public to understand, because the Democrats have a very good way of twisting the words. We are not cutting their budget. We are reducing the amount of money that they are asking for and putting the surplus back into reserves. And we've told them that if they need money, they'll be able to come back to us next year, but they have to justify. They have to justify that request, which they have a very big problem justifying. In a few minutes, we'll be voting on the police budget, and you will all be learning that the RTM Public Services Committee will be recommending to reduce the budget by one vehicle, which is a reduction of $57,000. Now, I think we can all agree on this body, reducing one vehicle is a potential reduction in our safety that has a direct effect on 30,000 citizens. Yet, the chief of police said during the Public Services Committee meeting, which I serve on, he would love to receive that $57,000.
Representative Riccio, are we talking on the Blackstone here now?
It's relevant, but he will work around it. He will work around it. But 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 he will My only question is, how can the police department, including all of the other town departments who receive a reduction in their ask, can work around the adjustments, but the Blackstone Library can't, especially in these trying financial times, when people have lost their jobs and not sure their jobs will return. To me, it's a selfish request, and I truly question the Board of Trustees on their actions. We aren't closing the library. We aren't forcing them to reduce their operating hours. We aren't cutting their services. We aren't reducing the number of people that work for the library. We're not forcing them to sell books. But through Representative Jackson, sent an email out that I have a copy of, called a few of us, including me, an attack dog. Representative Sullivan said we are micromanaging their budget. Well, the reason we are micromanaging their budget, Representative Sullivan, is because the Board of Trustees can't manage their own budget. As a matter of fact, one Board of Trustee member who's in this meeting went on record saying, well, next year we're going to just spend all of our money. That is totally irresponsible as a Board of Trustee member, and you know who I'm referring to. You have a fiscal responsibility to when you're on a board, to spend your money, other people's money, wisely and responsibly. And another question I have through Representative Brockett, who's the minority leader on this body, recommended a 0% increase months ago in a letter that he sent to the Board of Finance. 0% increase. Representative Brockett, what's changed? And one other point I want to make. The Blackstone Library has $2.5 million in endowment. Let me repeat. And that is a rainy day fund, by the way, Mrs. Jensen, who I asked you during the committee meeting, do you have a rainy day fund? And you said you don't. You do. It's called an endowment. Well, it's pouring outside. And it's time for the Board of Trustees to open up their checkbook and spend a few bucks, because people out in Branford and all the other towns in the country have lost their jobs. And $45,000 is not going to make or break the library. And when someone says, and I think it was Representative Jackson said, you know, we have a responsibility. They just got $5 million 2 years ago. They just got $500,000 to fix the roof. How can you call this body irresponsible? I will be voting against. I will be voting to support the reduction of their ask this evening. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, any other members of the RTM wishing to?
Moderator, it's Cindy Lombardi. I'd just like to make a couple comments.
Go ahead.
One is that it was said that there was no proposal, that they're not going to be closing the library. Well, it was suggested that there would no longer be any Sunday hours. And Sunday is the busiest day for our seniors to visit the library. So with no Sunday hours, that would put a big cut of enjoyment for the town seniors. Secondly, it was said that I don't support the cuts, but it was said that perhaps that means that I don't support the Branford taxpayers, and nothing can be further from the truth. So I just wanted to clarify that. For me, as an RTM member, I do care about the Branford taxpayers, and I just wanted to clarify that blanket statement was a little bit unfair. That's it.
Representative Flanagan speaking. Any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to Representative Jackson's amendment? Hearing none, anybody from the public wishing to speak?
Mr. Moderator, Representative Edelman.
All right, Representative Edelman, go ahead.
Just a few quick words. You know, the last RTM meeting, there was trouble on the other side of the aisle to vote for fixing a leaky roof. The architect made his statement to the full body, explained in complete logical, linear, analytical ways as to how the leak was occurring, why it wasn't picked up previously in their requests, and what the necessity was for the dollars that were being requested to fix that portion of the roof. There were still members from the other side that voted against those additional dollars. And quite frankly, to say that there hasn't been some type of anti-library animus on some members of this body would be less than truthful. And there's an intrinsic value that the library offers to our town. Some members of the RTM just don't seem to recognize. And all the hyperbole and discussion about the fiscal responsibility from various members on this board that continue, as Mr. Brockett pointed out, Representative Brockett pointed out, to fund at exorbitant rates positions that have been vacant, are currently vacant, and will probably continue to be vacant with not a peep or a sound of any objection from the other side is very disingenuous. So I would support Mr. Jackson's amendment, and thank you.
Okay, is anybody else now from the RTM wishing to speak? If not, I will ask anybody from the public who wishes to speak to this.
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Cook, go ahead.
You know, with all respect to the representatives, the RTM makes me laugh. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I haven't been to your budget meetings in the last few years, but I used to be at them all several years ago. And you spend an hour arguing over $40,000 surplus or $40,000 change based on a $90,000 surplus. But you don't care at all about a $25 million surplus that the town has, or another $20 million that they have in their insurance fund, or another 25 that they have in whatever it's called, the retirement fund or whatever that is. And it's $75 million surplus that the RTM probably doesn't even know exists, because he didn't know what happened 2 or 3 weeks ago when the Board of Finance took $6 million and went from one fund to the other. Well, I've seen you guys transfer, what, $10, and you didn't even know about $6 million. So it makes me laugh to hear this debate for like 45 minutes. Or
Mr. Cook, are you speaking to the Blackstone? That's the item that we're addressing.
Of course I am, because what I'm saying is that you're debating, you know, this $90,000 surplus by the Blackstone Library that translates into a $40,000, you know, a change in their budget, and you let everything else go. That's millions, tens of millions of dollars. Why are you wasting your time? I mean, why are you wasting this whole debate? Give them their money, for crying out loud, or else start paying more attention to the bigger issues.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to this item?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is Marianne Amore wishing to be recognized.
Okay, go ahead.
This again, Marianne Amore. I am the Vice President of the Blackstone Library Board and a former member of the RTM. It's hard to know where to start. First of all, I want to address this issue of a surplus. I'd like to point out a very basic understanding here. We are still in our fiscal year. We have unspent funds for a number of reasons, and we did far better in our fundraising efforts than we could have anticipated. However, we have not finished making decisions as to how that money should best be spent. So for this whole firestorm, I don't care how dramatic a Representative Preet gets about, consider that $99,000. That is, we have not issued a profit and loss. Our fiscal year is not ended. Our books are not closed. And to have all of this discussion predicated on something that is not real is a real problem, number one. Number two, I'd like to address the issue of our so-called rainy day fund, which it is not. This is an endowment. an endowment that is supposed to last forever. It is $2.5 million, which if you say it over and over again sounds a lot, but it isn't, because it's supposed to last forever. Any prudent financial advisor would tell you that if you want your money to last forever, you should only withdraw 5% or possibly 4% if you're being really prudent, and your money will last forever. So yes, there are some real fiscal reasons to stay within those prudent guidelines, number 2. Number 3, to speak out of both sides of your mouth, to say that we are not well managed, and then to say that we are managing our money too well, doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So consider that, okay? There's so much misinformation. Was there a typo in one of the budget presentations? Yeah, okay. So punish us for $45,000 for a typo. I don't see it. I want to emphasize something, that 400 to 500 people a day use the Blackstone Library. I don't know if that has sunk in yet. 400 to 500 people a day, maybe a few less on Sunday because we're not open as much, as long. The utilization that this resource gets in this town is unmatched by any other town resource on a daily basis. And the simplest point here is that regardless of anything else, the town of Branford is getting a world-class library for 85% of what it would cost them to run it if they ran it entirely on the town's books. No matter what you say, it is costing you less to have this gem in our town than any other public-private town library in our region. So I'd like you all to consider that. You can get very, very highfalutin about this $99,000 so-called surplus. Just remember that we have not closed our fiscal year yet. Nobody is characterizing this as a $99,000 surplus. We are well within our rights as a private organization to move how we spend that money within our budget lines. And we will do that. Thank you very much.
Representative Flanagan, or anybody else from the public wishing to comment on this?
Yes, please. Krista Lair here.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to say a quick thanks to Chris Sullivan and Anthony Alfone, my representatives, for responding to me and directing me to this meeting today so I could comment. I have lived in Branford my entire life, and the Blackstone Library has been an invaluable resource. I consider myself an example of how investing in this library is an excellent way to invest in members of the Branford community who may otherwise fall through the cracks. I was homeschooled here, and as such, the Blackstone Library was a vital resource and window to the world. From the American Sign Language class I took as a kid to the book club I was part of as a teen, the books, resources, and librarian support by the Blackstone Library was a major contribution to my education at a time when I lacked access to many of the regular investments Branford taxpayers make in the town's youth. Since then, I have continued to find the library making experiences and resources easy to access, regardless of your background or income level. This is incredibly important in an economic downturn, as these resources may grow harder to access privately. For instance, I have found their job hunting resources, such as Job Now, to be very helpful when I needed them. Also, many jobs don't accept paper applications anymore, so internet and computer access will be key in helping people get back on their feet after the current upheaval. In the meantime, educational resources provided by the library can help keep people from falling behind, or even assist them in acquiring entirely new skills as they search for employment. Branford has prudently been canceling traditional recreational events, such as the festival and the jazz concerts. Since Blackstone has been making many of their groups, activities, and resources available online and will make additional resources accessible through the upcoming curbside pickup, they are helping to keep us entertained and connected. This is vital in a time when we are all at risk of feeling isolated and depressed as we try to do what's best for our families and community. In summary, I'd like to share that my great aunt, 90 years old this year, talks about how she used to walk to Blackstone from the old Branford High School just down the street. Town's support of this library has provided generations of Branford residents with education, recreation, and opportunity. At a time when Blackstone's resources are particularly important to the continued well-being and success of Branford residents, and considering that fundraising activities normally available, such as renting out the auditorium, may be curtailed for some time, I think it would be a mistake to not grant Blackstone the requested budget. Supporting this library is an investment in every single person in this town. It has been in the past, and I believe it should stay that way now and into the future. I want to be 90 years old and able to tell young Branford residents about visiting the Blackstone Library as a kid and have them understand from personal experience just how much that opportunity meant. And in response to listening to all the debate today, I wanted to add, I was very surprised at how partisan it is. I did not expect that of my town's politics. So I did want to add that I come from a very mixed political household. We have Democrats, Republicans, everything, and we all love this library and utilize it all the time. And this is not a rubber stamp to us. It's a conscious decision to support everyone in this town. Thank you very much.
Hey, any other public comment on this item?
Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Adam Spilka. I have been a trustee of the Blackstone Library for 10 months now, and on July 1, I will succeed Rick Mahoney as its new treasurer. I have a couple of comments to make that I think touch on or give color to things that Representatives Henschel and Riccio mentioned, as well as adding something to Marianne said. I'd like to make the RTM aware that the proposed use of unspent funds is inconsistent with the long-standing agreement with the Board of Finance, an agreement that guides the board in the prudent management of the library's assets. As you know, the library was created as an independent entity by the Connecticut General Assembly in 1893 and is not considered a town department. Blackstone and the town benefited from the original endowment, which provided 100% of our funding until the 50s. Since then, the town has contributed to its operations, for which we are, of course, grateful. The agreement with the Board of Finance has two aspects relating to the endowment. Generally, we are able to use only up to 5% of the endowment in any year. In addition, funds unspent at year end are expected to be contributed to the endowment, not immediately used for operations or capital expenses. This understanding enhances the long-term stability of the Blackstone and maintains a steady contribution rate to support the annual operating budget. So if we are to maintain the level of services to our community, the Education Committee's proposal effectively requires us to act contrary to that understanding. Either we will not transfer unspent funds to the endowment because we now expect to need those funds in the next fiscal year, or in the alternative, the Blackstone will have to withdraw greater than the 5% of the endowment to make up shortfalls. The third option would be to reduce the budget, that is services, to make ends meet. I therefore respectfully disagree with the Education Committee's recommendation. Taking additional endowment funds for annual operating costs weakens the long-term future of the Blackstone. I thank you for your attention.
Mr. Moderator, Lisa Arpin.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Karen Jensen would like to speak.
Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Karen Jensen, Director of the Blackstone Library. And I would like to ask that the RTM consider granting the library its requested increase for fiscal year 2021. The Education Committee has recommended a 0% increase, which will almost certainly result in a reduction of services to Branford residents. The library has been very successful in fundraising in the past, but the upcoming year will present different challenges. We may not be able to realize our projected income from venue rental, fundraisers, and donations. We are also incurring extra expenses now as a result of providing more access to electronic resources while we've been closed. And there will be ongoing expenses for protective equipment and cleaning needed in order to provide library service as we move through the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, we offer resources that are funded entirely outside of the town appropriation, including Hoopla and Canopy streaming resources, museum passes and reservation software, children's programs, language learning software, and professional development. All of this adds up to $32,000 in funding provided by the Friends of the Library. Without their book sale in the fall, which is in jeopardy, we will not have funds for these resources either. There are some areas to date that remain unspent, and this is largely because we've exceeded fundraising goals and reallocated some staffing. We have decisions to make about how we invest in preparing the library for reopening. Just as the COVID-19 pandemic occurred, we were in the middle of planning how we would use those funds, so we still have decisions to make in this fiscal year about how we will spend them. I thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the library. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak?
One more comment, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Cook, go ahead.
You know, a couple things. I understand what Representative Preet was saying in terms of, you know, surplus. Do you tap into it or you let it go, whatever? So, I mean, okay, that be it as it may. But one thing I want to remind everybody of, and I don't think it's said enough, I don't think I've ever heard it said at all, is how much that library would cost if Branford built it now. What would it cost? 100 million? Could you even build it based upon the level of craftsmanship that, you know, went into it 100-something years ago? My point is this, that when you look at $40,000 over the course of what this town has received from Timothy Blackstone's gift in memory of his father, it's not even a drop in the bucket. So yes, you got to be careful and you got to manage it correctly. I understand that, Representative Preet. But by the same token, you know, this town is way ahead of the game when it comes to that library. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan speaking. Anybody else from the RTM or the public still wishing to make comments on this?
Yeah, Dennis.
Representative Steve?
No.
No?
Not a representative.
Steve Mazzacane, go ahead.
As someone who actually kind of agree with Wayne that it's kind of crazy that we go over these small amounts year after year. We hear the exact same arguments year after year. But at the end of the day, we have covered the Board of Education, and they've had surpluses at the end of every year as long as I can remember. And they have a meeting and they take some items that they may have purchased the next year and they purchase that year. Happens every single year. So I'm not real sure what the problem is here. If they have 90,000 or 50,000 or 40,000, Ms. Amore just said they haven't been finished appropriating funds. What is the problem taking their surplus this year, buying some of the items that they have on the agenda this year, even if they have to go to the Board of Finance for it, and taking this year's expenses to the last year, just like the Board of Ed has done since the beginning of time? I'm not sure what the problem is with something like that. The second question I have is Jim Finch on here?
Representative Flanagan, yes, he is.
Jim, a question for you. When a position like Public Works Director is funded but not filled, what happens with that money?
Mr. Finch?
Yep, yeah, I just have to run and I have to do in my unmute here. Jim Finch, Finance Director. The question is, when there is unspent money in a position, what happens to it?
Yeah.
Variety of things could happen. Sometimes that money gets transferred for another purpose. If not, it closes out the fund balance.
Okay, so and then every year, for example, this year in the budget, how much from fund balance is going into the current proposed budget?
For next year's budget, the amount of fund balance is roughly 3.7 million.
All right, so positions that are not filled, they go to fund balance, and then they go into the next year's budget.
Yeah, correct. The town appropriates out of fund balance every year.
Yeah. All right, so I think I agree with that, and I think Mr. Brockett's comparison makes sense. If we're going to have a surplus in the Blackstone Library, I think you have two options. You could do what the Board of Ed has done since the beginning of time, and they could look at books they want to buy next year or security lights they want to buy next year and do it this year. And if they need approval from the Board of Finance to do it, that's fine. Or like Mr. Brockett said, we could do it the exact same way the head of Public Works is handled. When we fund a position that's not filled, it goes to the undesignated fund balance and is used for next year's budget. I don't know what the problem is. That seems pretty logical, and I think you should let the Blackstone make that decision. So I would suggest cutting the $45,000, letting them figure it out this year. Don't expect the $99,000. They can spend it as they want, reappropriate it, go back to the Board of Finance. If they want to give it back to the Board of Finance, like Mr. Brockett said, we can treat it the exact same way we would treat the head of Public Works if it wasn't spent, goes to undesignated fund balance and goes into this year. This seems very, very easy to me. I know it's political. I know this has taken place, a battle over social media, and it's funny and it's comical, and I've watched it every year. But we actually have people in the room that know what they're talking about, and there's far better plans to handle this than yelling at each other with this stupid crap. So you have two options there. I think the Blackstone trustees, I see one that's going to be treasurer. I know Mary Ann's a longtime RTM member, very smart people. I'm sure they could figure it out. My suggestion to you is you take the suggestion and cut the 45,000, level them at flat, and let them do what they want with the 99,000. Return it and get it to next year's budget, or they can, as we discussed, appropriate it this year and spend it on something that they want to spend in the next budget. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, Jim Finch.
Go ahead, Jim Finch.
Yeah, I just want to correct something a little bit. Blackstone is a little bit different than the Public Works Department. What you're talking about, Steve, is something theoretically they can do. The difference is they would not come back to the Board of Finance because the money that we give to Blackstone goes into their fund as a revenue. If they were to spend that money on their fund balance on other items, it's up to the trustees. They could put it in the endowment. They could actually spend it on different things. But unlike Public Works reappropriating salary dollars, Blackstone does not have to go back to the Board of Finance.
And that's why, Jim, I mentioned the Board of Education, because the Board of Education does not need to go back to the Board of Finance either.
Representative Flanagan.
Correct. That's correct.
Yes.
Steve, every time you speak, you have to identify.
I'm sorry, my name is Steve Mazziking. Sorry about that.
All right. Anybody else wishing to speak to this item, either public or RTM?
One last comment, Mr. Moderator. I really hope, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Wayne.
I really hope that, one thing I said is heard by people, that, okay, we can talk about the fund balance with the library, fund balance with other departments, fund balance with the Board of Education, but the mother of all fund balances is the town's fund balance. And I really would implore the RTM members to take a hard look at that. Take a real hard look at that in addition to the other the other two funds, because that's $75 million that you really don't know, what's happening with it. So again, don't mean to come full circle here, but if you're going to do your job as our representatives, that's a very, very good place to start.
Okay, Representative Flanagan again. If there is no further.
No, there is. From public. My name is Monik Sumro. I'm 19 years old. I currently go to UConn. I have been living in Branford for the last 10 years. Ever since I was little, I have been going to the library, using their various services, such as youth services, Maker Lab, which they put in for the last 10 years as well. And I found those things have been very helpful. So I urge the RTM members not to cut any money from Blackstone. Frankly, they deserve it because, first of all, they've brought me joy and learning these past 10 years that I don't think I would have gotten school or in other places. And library is a very good place for all children to hang out and exercise their learning abilities. Everyone learns something new there. People from high school go to the library not only to hang out, but also learn new stuff within books. So with cutting the budget from the library, you are essentially taking away opportunities from children that could have been there, but not if you cut the budget. I strongly urge that you RTM members please look over the budget for the library and not cut the money given.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak to this item? Hearing not, this will be a roll call vote. This will be on Representative Jackson's amendment to the amendment. Voting yes, supports Representative Jackson's amendment. Voting no is against it. The clerk will do the roll call vote on this.
Okay, this is Representative Leach. Roll call on the amendment for the amendment. This is, let's see, Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, no.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, no.
It's good.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, no.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, no.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett votes yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin votes no.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, no.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken votes yes.
Representative Healy.
Not here.
Oh, sorry, Representative
here.
Henschel.
Representative Henschel votes yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines votes no.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham votes no.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, no.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Freet, no.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes no.
Representative Sember,
Representative Zember votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, no.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, no.
Representative Sullivan,
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill, no.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells, no.
Okay, so I believe I have 15 noes and 13 yes.
Okay, Representative Jackson's amendment to the motion is defeated. Now we're back to the first amendment that was presented by Representative Toohill. Is there any further discussion on Representative Toohill's motion? Anybody from the comment wishing, anybody from the public wishing to comment on it? If not, this will be a roll call vote. Again,
Mr.
yes.
Moderator, point of order.
Yes.
Representative Brockett here.
Yes, go ahead, Representative Brockett.
I thought that procedurally we were going to hear from all the committees and then have one vote for the town budget.
I wasn't aware of that, Representative Brockett. We're going to do it individually by committee assignment. We're going to go to administrative services next, then public services, and then ways and means and R&O.
So we're going to have one vote. That's not the way the agenda is. The agenda is written under number 4 to vote for the entire town budget.
We will. Item number 3 and 4, after we get all any amendments, if any, we'll get some revised figures from Representative Finch, from Jim Finch, and then we will vote on the entire budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So again, we're going to be voting on Representative Hill's amendment to the budget there. The item of vote yes for his motion, and a no would be against it. This will be a roll call vote.
Representative Flanagan, may I ask, can we have him restate the amendment just so we're sure what we're voting on?
Absolutely. Representative Toohill, will you please repeat your motion, your amendment, I should say?
Yes, absolutely. This is Frank Toohill, representative. Right now, the motion that's before the RTM is that the Blackstone Library operating for the next fiscal year, 21, that the operating amount be maintained at its current fiscal year 20 amount, which is $1,443,962. That's the motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Okay, so roll call. Representative Edelman?
Representative Edelman, no.
Representative Alphone?
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson?
Representative Anderson is yes.
Representative Austin?
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black?
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett?
Representative Brockett, no.
Representative Conklin?
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson?
Representative Everson, no.
Representative Erlanger?
Representative Erlanger, no.
Representative Greenberg?
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken?
Representative Haken, no.
Representative Henschel?
Representative Henschel, no.
Representative Hines?
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham?
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson?
Representative Jackson, no.
Representative Kelly?
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach? No. Representative Lombardi?
Representative Lombardi, no.
Representative Preet?
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio?
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember?
Representative Sember, no.
Representative Sires?
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro?
Representative Sumro, no.
Representative Stepanik?
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan?
This is Representative Sullivan voting no.
Representative Torelli?
Representative Torelli votes no.
Representative Toohill?
Representative Frank Toohill votes yes.
Representative Wells?
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay, we have a total of 15 yes and 13 no.
Okay, Representative Toohill's motion to amend the Board of Finance recommendation is approved. All right, moving on.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking.
Yes. Yes. Would just like to do the Blackstone Capital now, Mr. Moderator.
Oh, go ahead, Representative Hill.
All right, so, all right, the Capitol, what happened with the Capitol was the Board of Finance recommended to the RTM that the amount of $56,010 be approved for Blackstone Library capital items. And by a vote of 7-0, the Education Committee, what they decided to do was to approve everything except the amount requested of $22,000 for security cameras. $5,000 of that was approved, and the other $17,000 of that $22,000 went to a contingency. That's the recommendation from the committee, and the reason for it is because what the thinking was that, I mean, when the Blackstone comes back with a written estimate, you know, that they can ask for more. But at the time that the presentation was made to us, there was no written estimate. And I put that in the form of a motion. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Representative Flanagan. Now, Representative Toohill, so your motion is to amend the capital on the item?
Yeah.
That's correct, sir.
Mr. Moderator?
Representative Ingraham.
I'm going to go back to what Representative Brockett was talking about. Even though it wasn't what I was describing over the weekend, I think it would behoove us to listen to all the amendments for all the committees that are left and vote on them all at one time. And then because we do have legal ones that we have to do with funds, you know, items 4 or 5 through 14. I'd rather spend the time us discussing the changes rather than the I don't want to put this in a form of motion because I don't want to have to vote on it. But I'm trying to figure out the best. I think we should just proceed that way. It's written on the agenda that way. So I don't think we need an amendment to just listen to all the amendments and vote everything at one time. You good with that, Representative Brockett?
Yeah, this is Representative Brockett from the town side. That was my understanding when we spoke last week, that number 4
Yeah.
would be voted on in one vote.
I can get how we probably should do conversation confirmers between each other sometime on the bigger things. But are you okay with that, Mr. Moderator?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Well, traditionally, as you know, in the past, we took each committee and then we voted individually. And
We're way out of tradition.
And the only reason I'm mentioning that is I wanted to give everybody, ample time to speak to it, both public and RTM members. But okay.
Yeah. So that we'll proceed with listening to all the committees' motions, which I think there's only 1 or 2 more, 3 or 4, but that's it. Listen to them all and then vote on everything as the amending the entire budget and approving. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan with a point of order, I guess.
Yeah.
I would agree with the intent of Representative Ingraham's speech. It may be just so that we still can encourage public participation and that folks can follow along with what we're doing. Maybe as part of the discussion of each subcommittee's report, we could ask for commentary on those subcommittee reports, but still not vote on anything until the very end. That way, there's no confusion as of what subcommittee report people are speaking towards. That's just my suggestion.
It's Representative Ingraham, very good suggestion. That'll keep everything in order and everyone's head in the right direction.
Yeah, this is Representative Flanagan. I don't have an issue with that. I just that Representative Sullivan, your comment is I want to be able to have both RTM members and the public be able to speak to any items they would want. Okay.
Totally agree.
Okay, so we're back to Representative Toohill. Go ahead and make that recommendation that you just stated, and then I'll move on to each other committee after that.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So, so going back to Blackstone the Blackstone Library capital request. As I said before, the Board of Finance approved all their requests in total, $56,010. When it got to us, the RTM Education Committee, we voted 7-0 to make one change, and that was with the security cameras. They requested the amount of $22,000, and as I said before, there was no written estimate. And so what Education Committee decided to do was to give them $5,000 right now, and then put the other $17,000 into a contingency with the idea that when they have a written estimate, they can always come back and ask for more. So, and like, again, that's the only change. Thank you.
Okay, so that Representative Flanagan, so that concludes your presentation, Representative Toohill.
That's correct, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to.
Mr. Moderator, I think this is where Representative Sullivan was talking about. If anyone wants to interject now with comments on that item, let them do it now. And then go on to the next committee. And then, you know, those amendments get talked as we go.
Right. Okay,
Yeah,
so.
this is Representative Sullivan. That's exactly right.
All right, so Representative Sullivan, I understand what you're trying to put across here. So anybody from the RTM wishing to speak to this item? If not, anybody from the public wishing to speak to this item? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next committee, Administrative Services. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to make a motion. I guess we're not going to make the motion at this time, but just to report on the committee's findings or the committee's decisions. There was a motion to approve the departmental budgets under the admin services purview as approved by the Board of Finance with the following amendments. The first was to the executive budget. There was a reduction of the regular wages and salary line by $104,170. The amendment was approved unanimously in committee. That changed the overall executive budget amount to $269,405. The overall approved budget for the executive department was approved with a 6-1 vote. Representative Everson being the dissenting vote. I'm not sure if she wants to make a minority report after this. The second amendment is to the East Shore Health Department budget. The committee made a recommendation to increase that budget by $1,054. This was due to a change in the population and the factoring of Branford's contribution to the East Shore Health Department. This amendment was approved unanimously in committee with a 7-0 vote, and those were the only two amendments to come out of the committee.
Representative Flanagan here. Anybody from the RTM wishing to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Everson.
Go ahead.
With regard to my no vote for the executive budget, the funding that was changed was for a position, a special projects director position. That much of that salary line has now been moved into contingency. Whether or not there's going to be a new person in that position does remain an open-ended question, and that was the reason why I voted against it.
Anybody else from the RTM wishing to speak to this? Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this? I believe that's it, Representative Alphone, is that correct?
Yes, that is it. That
Okay.
Also includes the capital items as recommended by the Board of Finance too.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. Moving on to Public Services, Representative Conklin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Public Services Committee heard and questioned the following budget presentations on Wednesday, April 29th. Engineering, Solid Waste Management, Public Works, Docks and Recreational Facilities, Animal Control, Fire Services, police services special detail, and municipal government buildings. On Thursday, May 7th, the committee met to vote on the same budgets. A motion was made, seconded, and approved unanimously to approve the budgets as amended by the Board of Finance with 2 exceptions. All on police services capital budget. On page 31.15, we voted to reduce the police cruiser line from 144,000 to 108,000, a reduction of 1 cruiser of $36,000, and to reduce the police cruiser equipment line from 84,000 to 63,000, a reduction of 1 cruiser equipment of 21,000. These can be funded with surpluses in the 2019-2020 police services budget attributable to our current health crisis. Thank you.
Any members, Dennis Flanagan, or any members of the RTM wishing to speak to this? Any members of the public wishing to speak to this?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Cook?
Yeah, just quickly, one concern I had regarding Representative Conklin's committee, and I think another one, is that during the final meeting, they grouped all of the departments together and they approved them all as one. And I raised an objection then that I didn't think that was the best process to follow. And I think, you know, maybe it's the way that certain committees want to do it, but I think the RTM should establish some sort of a policy as to, you know, whether or not that's appropriate. What's the downside? Well, I guess the downside is if you had people there that wanted to comment on any given department, that they would be precluded from doing so. And, you know, I don't know if that's ever going to be the case because I don't know if people followed that closely. And I guess the committee members already have their, you know, their opinions made. But I think it's a consideration. And as Representative Conklin would say, you know, I did object to it. And there was one more committee that did that, but I just wanted to call it to your attention and to the RTM's attention.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment on this? Okay, moving on to Representative Black, Ways and Means and R&O. Representative Black?
It takes him a while to find the button.
Yeah. Hiding down on the bottom. So Ways and Means we met twice. The first time we went over the budget line by line, department by department, and then we met on the then we met a second time, and the only change that the committee voted 3-2 was to increase contingency by $102,000. That includes a request from education for $17,000, and that includes $85,000 toward a possible revised special projects committee. So that's the committee motion. I don't know if Representative Erlanger or Representative Brockett, who are in the minority, want to make a minority report.
Anybody from the RTM wishing to speak to this? Representative Brockett? No?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. Minority report is I voted against this because they took $5,000 from the library's capital, $17,000 from the library's capital budget and put it into contingency. And they also defunded the old special projects coordinator position. And instead of just defunding the position, they rolled $85,000 into contingency. And I voted against it for those reasons.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Erlanger. I concur with the same reasons. I voted against the budget because, or the amendment because of the same reasons that Representative Brockett did. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody from the public wishing to comment on this? Okay, I guess that concludes all the committee reports. So it's my understanding, I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
Uh,
Point of
Or
order,
no.
Mr. Moderator, you have rules and
Or
order.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Go ahead, Representative Black.
Information on, we also heard the lease fund. I can't remember if that's part of the operating budget and the sewer assessment fund as well. And they were part of our action at Ways and Means. Rules and ordinances voted 4-1 to approve, recommend approval as recommended by the Board of Finance. I was in the minority on that, and I'll not make a minority report tonight. So no changes from R&O.
Representative Flanagan, here, any comments from members of the RTM? Any comments from the public on this? Okay, I guess that concludes it. So Representative Ingraham, are you unmuted?
I am.
So it's understanding now that we'll wait for Mr. Finch to give us some revised figures and take it from there?
Yep, that's what we usually do.
Okay. Jim, and when you get a chance, give me the two figures for item 3 and 4 on the call, and then we can proceed.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Cook?
I have a question. I have a statement to make about the overall budget and the process, regardless of what the amount is. When can I do that?
You can do it now. We're waiting.
Okay. I want to say the couple things that I think are important, and I'm tying it into the budget because obviously that's what this meeting is about. Let me start by saying that the RTM is about to approve close to $120 million in the overall budget, and the way I see it is, the taxpayers trust that you'll do the right thing and see that they get what they pay for. I mean, for example, if there was a fire truck that you have budgeted for and the truck never came in, well, there'd be a problem with that. Same token, if there was a town hall worker that, you budgeted for, they didn't show up to work, problem with that. And if there was a library roof for $500,000 that you budgeted and they didn't do their work, well, you have a problem with that. So my point is this, and hopefully you would just indulge me on this, that there are more expectations from taxpayers than simply what is in your budget. More than just positions, more than just equipment, more than just vehicles. I think there's an expectation, and again, this is my take on it, and I'm representing a number of different citizens in this town, that the town owes taxpayers, based on this budget, based upon what they pay, other things. The town owes them a fair process. The town owes them accountability. The town owes them transparency. And in my opinion, and the opinion of a growing number of people, those things are conspicuously absent. And I think the RTM needs to look at that, because you would be concerned if a fire truck wasn't here, or if a town worker, or the library roof. So why wouldn't you be concerned about these inherent rights that we have that, again, many, many people feel are being ignored or violated? Now, I could go down the list. 5 of them exist on petitions that you have. You know what they are: Atlantic Wharf, and the Parkside Village, J. Medlin's Farm, the Costco debacle, Tabor, what's going on down there. But I would just implore you to consider this, that, when the taxpayers pay the town $120 million, it's more than just to see the town run. It's to see the town run fairly. And that's not happening here. And we'll find out. We'll find out in front of all of you when these petitions get heard. But I would just end by saying, if those things are not included in the budget, then what's the charge? What's the extra charge for a fair process? Is it going to cost more? It's very, very important that the RTM take a very active role in this, Because if I'm right, and I am right, that there are serious wrongdoings in, town hall, perhaps more in the past than now, but still, they still exist now with different aspects of it, then who's going to check that other than the legislative body? Is it up to the citizens? I mean, I'll finish by saying this, and you heard me say this before. The one meeting I stood up and I said, the town's corrupt and here's what I think and whatever, and I gave some indications. At the end of the meeting, one of your representatives came up and said, and you heard me say this, I agree a lot with what you say, but I don't like the signs and I don't like how you say it. And I said in turn, why should a citizen have to say it at all? Why doesn't the RTM look into these things? And I mean, I tell you, if you prove me wrong, people know me, I'll be the first to say, I was wrong. So thank you for listening for that.
Thank you.
That. It's important. And I appreciate the opportunity to say it. Thank you.
Mr. Finch, are you ready?
Mute here.
Jim?
Okay, through you, Mr. Moderator. I'm looking at item 2 on the call.
So, Jim, go to item 3. There's give me the figure for 3 and give me the figure for 4. Then that's what we'll do that. That's how we'll proceed from there. You know what I mean? So 3 would be the Board of Finance, the Board of Education operating budget, and the capital, and 4 would be the Board of Finance town department's operating budget and capital.
Okay. Well, actually, what I probably have a different order here. I have the total expenditures for the town operating capital of 58,834, 365.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute, Jim. 58. Go ahead.
834, 365. If you look on your screen, you probably see it. You guys see
Hold
that?
on. 835.
Can you see the screen?
The arrows on it.
Okay, I see it. Okay.
The Board of Ed is broken out. So the
The
Board of Ed,
we already voted on. This Representative Ingraham, we already voted on the number 3.
okay, and then did you vote
Yes,
on the Board of Ed, the capital leases too?
Yep.
Yes.
So there you have it. You have 118,017,243 for the budget.
Okay, 118,000. Gotcha. Okay. So Representative Ingraham, you want to make a motion on any, on this?
I think Representative Ingraham, they're all represented as, we've already got amendments to my original motion, so we're voting on these amendments to ratify them. So the town side operating and capital budget will be $58,828,962.
Mr. Moderator, Representative Black here.
Yeah, Representative Black, go ahead.
Yeah, just for a point of clarity, I'd like to, I think we might, we're voting on all the committee reports as a single amendment at this point. Is that correct procedurally?
Correct.
That's correct, Representative Black.
Okay, and then after we amend the underlying motion, we will vote again on the motion as amended.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. So as I understand it, then there'll be 2 votes. First will be a vote on the amendments, then there'll be a vote on the town budget, correct?
That is correct, Representative Brockett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Representative Ingraham as a whole. The second vote will be the entire budget as a whole.
Second vote will be as a whole, voting on the whole, right?
This is Representative Brockett. Thank you. So there'll be 2 full roll call votes.
Correct, Representative Brockett. So the first roll call vote will be for the amendment portion of it. All those in favor will say say yes. All those against will vote no. Representative Leach? Are you there?
A point of information, I'd just like to point out to everyone that the RTM was just joined by Representative Healy just joined us. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Oh, Jesus. Thanks, Frank, for calling me out.
We all knew you weren't here, but congratulations to Shannon, man.
Thank you very, very much. Yeah, that just wrapped up. So I thought I'd just check in.
Representative Leach, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Okay, Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman?
I'm sorry, Representative Edelman, no.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, no.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin votes yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson votes no.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger votes no.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Representative Haken votes no.
Representative Healy, are you ready to vote on this item?
No, my apologies, Representative Leach. I am not ready at this time.
Okay, thank you. Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel votes no.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines votes yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham votes yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson votes no.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly votes yes.
Representative Leach votes no. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi votes no.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet votes yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember votes no.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro votes no.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik votes yes.
Representative Sullivan,
This is Representative Sullivan voting no.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes no.
Representative Toohill,
Yes, I'm sorry. Representative Toohill votes yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay. We have 15 yes, 13 no.
Okay, the passes, the amendment portions passes. Now we're going to do a second vote, roll call vote on the overall budget of $118,017,243. A yes vote is in favor, a no vote you're against.
Mr. Moderator,
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett here. I'd like to make a comment with respect to the overall budget.
go ahead.
Thank you. Because we are living in extraordinary times, the Branford town budget should address citizens' needs. As of this past Sunday, May 17th, 2020, 38 Branford lives have been lost due to the coronavirus. Further, Recent government statistics indicate that some 2,500 people in Branford are now unemployed, which represents a conservative 400% increase from March. Yet the administration has submitted the budget developed before the pandemic without subsequent revisions or prudent adjustments that reflect the new reality impacting Branford's community. This budget fails to reflect the changing times. It fails our residents and taxpayers in a time of great need. As the COVID-19 crisis hit and the quarantine and/or lockdown began, the Democratic RTM minority requested the administration go back and ask each department to take a second look at their proposed budget. Common sense dictates a second look. Both the administration and the Republican majority failed to act. A prudent revised budget would have made every effort to minimize taxpayer burden, limit discretionary expenditures, and strengthen community services targeted to those most highly impacted, such as our library. The Board of Finance made some cuts and shuffled some other funds to pay for projects in the original budget. The RTM followed suit and made minimal cuts. The end result is a proposed budget that increases in excess of $2.5 million. While there may be only a minimal change in the mill rate, your taxes will increase if your assessment increased in the reevaluation. The budget also relies on the assumption that 98% of all taxes will be paid to the town. We can only hope that that holds true. As it should, this budget honors all the contractual salary increases for the hardworking men and women who serve our town well. We take this opportunity to thank all town employees for working through the COVID-19 crisis and serving the needs of the sick, the elderly, the less fortunate, the unemployed, and the hungry. To the teachers who are working remotely to continue to educate our children, our thanks to you and the school staff for doing your part. The budget before us tonight fails to recognize these unprecedented times. It falls woefully short of neither recognizing nor funding needs related to the COVID-19 crisis. Government's responsibility is to provide for the safety and welfare of its people. This budget fails to set aside any funds to assist our businesses and residents in the battle against the coronavirus and its aftermath. It fails to invest in our people and our businesses. It fails to reflect the financial pain many of our taxpayers will feel, and it fails to provide pandemic-related assistance to Branford students, residents, and businesses. As the Democratic minority leader on the RTM, I speak for the caucus when I say we will not support this budget. Branford deserves better. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Anyone else wishing to comment on this?
Moderator, Representative Ingraham. I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
repeat my Representative Ingraham. I'm going to repeat my thanks to the people that actually worked on this budget. Many hours were put into going line by line through this budget by committee chairs and RTM members. Sorry to say that I'm listening to the minority leader now talk about the any changes that should have been made to this budget. Not one change, and these meetings are recorded, so anyone who wants to go back and take a look at every subcommittee meeting can check it out. Not one suggestion, not one adjustment was suggested by the Democratic leader or any of the members. So to not support a budget that you gave no input to other than a letter and a bloviating speech at the end of the budget process, shame on you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. I'd like to respond to those charges. First of all, that is not a correct statement. That is totally incorrect. We sent a letter in March to the administration requesting that the administration send each and every budget back to their department for a review. They failed to act in that regard. No one is better to redo the budget than a department head. They are fully capable of redoing all their budgets in light of the pandemic, and that was not accomplished. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Ricchio. I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Representative Ricchio.
And I also have some questions. My first question is to Representative Brockett. Is there an election in November for your position? Can I get an answer, please?
Yes, Representative Brockett, Representative Ricchio. First, I don't think it's relevant, and second, there is no
It
election.
sure is relative, because that was the most ridiculous statement that the 10 years that I've been on this body, I ever heard a representative talk about. Here's the budget from 2010, when your administration was in charge. You want me to talk about the increases, Representative Brockett, when there was an international financial crisis going on?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Stop
Ricchio.
Stop the politics, Mr. Representative Brockett, and start doing your job as a representative and start having some fiscal responsibility.
All right, Representative Ricchio.
Because it's silly.
All right, look.
You want me to read all the budgets that the Democratic administration ran when they were running this town, Representative Brockett?
I'm going to mute you.
That's BS.
Representative Flanagan here. All right, let's stick to the budget here, okay? Let's stop going back and forth on politics, okay? Any other further discussion on voting on the overall budget?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a comment. Representative Everson.
Go ahead.
I would like to say that I listened to, as a new member of this RTM, each and every single budget committee that discussed this. While there were ideas and issues brought up and discussed during this budget process, there is a Republican majority on this board. So any attempt to make any change to the budget is voted down. So attempts were made, discussion was had. The issues are relevant. We are in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic. And as we don't take this lightly, this decision, we respect the taxpayers in this town. We respect the people who work for this town. But this decision was made in the interest of good government, responsive government, to meet the changing needs of this town during this extraordinary time. And as the minority leader said, Branford deserves better. Thank you.
Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak to this?
Mr. Moderator, Representative Edelman.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to thank Minority Leader Brockett for echoing our party's position relative to this budget and indicating that his words are a bloviating speech and this attack dog mentality is symbolic of the tone deafness of the budget and the unawareness of the circumstances that exist now from the other side. So once again, I'd like to thank Mr. Brockett for reiterating our caucus's point of view. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Ricchio. Once again, I'd like to point out to Representative Brockett, when there was a international financial crisis going on in the world, when the Democrats were in charge of this town, in 2011, a 3.3% increase. 2012, 3.2% increase. Do you want me to go on, Representative Brockett, with numbers?
Representative Ricchio.
This is Representative Brockett. I wasn't here in 2011, sir.
Hold on, everybody. Representative Ricchio, no more. We're not going.
But to suggest, this is relevant, okay? To suggest that this administration is not doing its job, to suggest that this body is not doing its job, you should be ashamed of yourself, Mr. Representative Brockett. And that's why I asked, is an election taking place in November?
All right. Representative Ricchio, no more. That's it, okay? Anyone else wishing to speak to this item?
I'd like to say something, please.
Anybody else from the public besides Wayne Cook?
Let Wayne go, I will.
All right, go ahead, Wayne, you're on.
Just a question for Representative Brockett, and I'm not taking sides here because I don't know enough about it, but were there certain things that you would have suggested or you would have put forth that the town do in light of the circumstances that were not done?
To answer your question, Mr. Cook, yes. One example, I'll give you one example. I don't want to belabor the process. One example is we asked the administration to produce face masks for all the residents. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
I will.
All right, if not, who's talking?
Steve Mazzican.
Who?
Steve.
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to make one quick point. As someone who's covered and probably knows more about the budget process than 95% of the people in the room, save Jim and Ray and the first selectman. To those Democrats who are not Mr. Brockett and Mr. Edelman and Ms. Everson, this budget, whether you vote for it or not, is extremely bipartisan. The former head of the state tax collecting agency, Joe Mooney, is the head of your Board of Finance. He supports this budget. The former chairman of the Democratic Town Committee, Victor Casella, who you know well because we've donated to almost every Democratic campaign, he supports this budget. The budget is bipartisan as it gets. You have a decision to make. You can listen to a few, let's be honest, political nonsense speeches being made here, or you can listen to people who have been on the Board of Finance for years, who have run budgets for years, who have been prudent for years. In a crisis, what is needed isn't massive cuts. It's the last thing you do. I'm a Democrat, and I have berated the national Republicans for trying to make cuts and tax cuts during crisis. The last thing you do are cuts during a crisis. In a crisis, you go the course, you keep your things fully funded, you move forward. The town has money on hand. Some people don't love that, but the money on hand enables unbelievable freedom. We have bond rates that come second to none when it comes to getting schools done, senior centers done, and more projects. You can be extremely proud to live in Branford, and you can be extremely proud of this budget, which is bipartisan. You don't have an issue, and a question before you of whether you're going to listen to a Republican or a Democrat. You have a question in front of you of which Democrat are you going to listen to? Tom Brockett, who just told you he hasn't been here very long, or Joe Mooney, who's been here for years? You listen to Edelman, who doesn't know what he's talking about, or Victor Casella, the former chair of the Democratic Party, who supports this budget. You have an opportunity in front of you now to listen to what your leaders told you to do in caucus, or to take part in the bipartisan budget in front of you. I suggest you think long and hard about who your loyalties lie to, doing the right thing for the town or the right thing for a couple small leaders in your caucus. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment on this item?
Yes, I do. It's Cindy Lombardi,
Go ahead.
Representative Lombardi, and I'd like to comment. Well, first of all, it was just mentioned that it's not a bipartisan issue, and I do believe that, but attacking individuals is not really necessary. Secondly, I thought Representative Brockett's letter was very heartfelt, and he thanked us health workers. He was the first one to do that publicly, and I thank him for that because, you know, it deserves recognition, and our whole town is involved in this. And yes, we're very, very fortunate to live in Branford, but there are very, very significant things going on now that are different that we all have to address. So I would just like that taken into consideration, that it is a very different time and it's not business as usual. And maybe just a little consideration to putting appropriate funds to necessary things that might be challenging in these times. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anybody from the RTM wishing to speak? Anybody from the public?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan.
Representative Sullivan, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in and just say a couple points. I mean, most of us know that the RTM doesn't have the ability to increase the budget as it comes to us. We can only reduce that number and shuffle money around. I don't think that, at least my position would be trying to cut the budget to try to help. I think that, as Mr. Cook actually has pointed out, there is additional funds in the fund balance that could have been more allocated to help out people in this community that are unemployed now and could be struggling. This is truly an unprecedented crisis. The unemployment rates are significantly higher than anything that happened in 2010 or any other years. And I just can't vote for the budget in the way it stands, and I wish that it had gone back to the department heads and some more considerations were made. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to
Mr.
speak?
Moderator, it's just Representative Ingraham, real quick.
Well, go ahead, Representative.
In response to a little bit of what Representative Sullivan had just said, you know, the request that went to the Board of Finance was to cut the budget to zero. No explanation, no ideas of what zero really was, whether it was a mill rate zero, whether it was cutting it back to last year's number. I'm hearing in some of the discussion that there was thoughts that items should have been added to the budget. I'm not sure how you can go and make a zero budget, net zero budget, and add items to other parts of the process. No explanation was given on how to make that happen, or suggestions on how to make that happened in any part of the process. Also, again, I went to all the budgetary meetings. Not one item was brought up to discuss. The thought that my caucus would suddenly poo-poo an item that was a reduction in any budget is so far from the realm. You would have me fighting with them to please, no, don't jump on everything that was presented to be cut. There's things that we would have to leave in the budget. So the thought process that my caucus would have poo-pooed anything brought to them. I'm very sorry to hear that someone would think that was happening or could happen in the process. And it's never happened since I've been involved. And even 2 years before I was involved, it was a very back and forth, many negotiations. Many things got changed on budget night, but many negotiations in the subcommittee process. So what I'm going to ask is that when we come up to next year and we have some negotiations, bring up what you want to have. Let's discuss it. It was not discussed. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Riccio. Go.
Representative Riccio. Representative Riccio. Representative Riccio?
Yes.
All right. No more back and forth on this thing. You have
I won't. I won't. But I just
something to
want
say
to
that's relevant, then stick to it.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I want to ask Representative Sullivan, where was he in 2010, 2011, 2012, when the world was going through an international financial crisis? Where were you asking your administration, the UNC administration, to go back and ask the departments to reevaluate their budget? Where were you, Mr. Sullivan? The financial position of this country was far worse than it is right now. I'm not saying it's bad right now. It is it's very challenging. But and please ask my question. Where were you? You've been on this body as long as I have, and probably longer. Where were you 10 years ago?
Anyone else want to?
Can you please answer that question?
No, we're not going to get into that, Representative Rick.
Well, it's very relevant.
Okay, you're talking about previous budget. Okay, well, let's stick with what we're dealing with tonight. Anyone else wishing to speak to this?
Mr. Moderator.
This is Representative Wells. I'd like to speak if possible.
Representative Wells, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to point out that what the people of Branford want, and we all hear this when we're campaigning, they want the level of services they expect for the lowest possible tax bill that they can get. That hasn't changed. That's not change. When the budget process is unfolding, that's what we look at in each of the committee meetings. That's the time to address it. If you want to take something out of the budget and buy masks for everyone, as was brought up a few moments ago, the time to do that is when you're in the committee meeting and people are moving the numbers around. When you get down to the 11th hour and Mr. Finch is giving us the final numbers, to throw that out there is nothing but political theater. There's not a way to go back in this point and do it. So you can either make your pretty speeches or you can get on with life and vote on the budget. Thank you.
Representative Arpin, you had some comment? I mean,
Thank you. Town Clerk Harpin.
Yeah, no,
Just
yeah.
as a department head, I would like to speak about the process on our end. We have several opportunities to meet with finance, with the first selectman on any of our line items. I can speak to my own budget and tell you that of my $268,000 budget, which is small potatoes and relevant to the numbers overall that we're discussing, I can tell you that any cuts to my budget would be detrimental to operations here. So to Representative Sullivan's comment, the hairs on my neck go up a little bit. We are very sensitive to running a tight ship, and you know, I have to put my head on the pillow and face the constituents, and I know that my budget is a tight budget. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, it's Representative Preet.
Representative Preet, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you. I just like to make a comment, if I can. It seems that Representative Brockett and the Democratic Caucus sounds like they're upset with the first selectman for not sending this budget back to the department heads. But as I mentioned earlier when I spoke, that's part of our job. And I wonder why you guys didn't meet with the department heads. Representative Toohill, Representative Hines, and myself met on numerous occasions with the superintendent and with Mr. Neal, and went through their budget and discussed effects of any changes that would have on the Board of Ed. So to, you know, criticize the administration, again, this is part of our job, and part of your job is to sit down with a department head and ask him questions. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on with this now. This is,
yeah.
Who's speaking?
First Selectman Jamie Cosgrove.
Go ahead, Cosgrove.
I would just like to, first of all, maybe set the record straight in terms of the process that is laid out. The department heads develop their budget, working with the administration and finance, and they look to, you know, provide the level of service, meet program needs, invest in our infrastructure that we feel is expected from the constituents. That is then put together in a document that is sent to the Board of Finance for consideration. And the letter that was sent that said this should be sent was not sent to the administration. It was sent to the chairman of the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance, as stated, made many adjustments to this budget as presented. And if you read the transmittal letter, it's very clear the board and the town had considered the current pandemic and the potential impacts that may have on our community. It's right in the transmittal letter that was sent to this body, the RTM. So I suggest you refer to that document. There's a number of things that we've done to ease the impact to the taxpayer, increase the amount brought forward of fund balance. We've you know, made some other adjustments to the budget and paid things out of this current year budget. This body was part of that process. You did a tax, we brought forward with you a month ago, a tax deferral program. This body voted on it. To make a statement that the administration is not in tune or with the needs of the community is false. Getting back to the process, each committee, I believe, met at least twice to meet with the department heads, to hear their budget, hear the explanation, and hear from them directly what they identified as the needs to continue to provide services, programs, and invest in our infrastructure. And that is a decision that's before you now, to vote on what the department heads need. Of course, you can make adjustments, and there are some adjustments that have been made, and but those are still needs, and that's what's a balancing act. You're balancing act in terms of meeting the needs of provide programs and services and invest in our infrastructure with a acceptable tax rate, being sensitive to taxpayers in the town. That's what we go through every year. And I recognize there's a number of new representatives on here, but I'll say it again, I've said it in the past, we're not just looking at this year's budget. My administration from day one has always looked at the future years, next year. And you know what? We're going to be entering some challenging times, and we're going to try to do our best to meet those challenges. But you know what? A year from now, we're going to be right before you, and there may be some very difficult decisions at that point, very difficult circumstances to deal with. And that's what it's not a short-sighted one look at, how do we get just through this year? We're looking long-term. So we have a budget before you that I think mitigates to the best we can any negative impact to the taxpayers. I think when all said and done, it'll be a decrease in the mill rate. So yes, there'll be, if the value in your property went up, there would maybe a slight, but if your value stayed the same in your property, there'll be a slight decrease in taxes. But again, what we're trying to do is provide programs, services, invest in our infrastructure, meet the needs of our community while being sensitive to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosgrove. Anyone else wishing to comment? Hearing none, Representative Leach, would you please continue with a roll call vote on it? This will be voting yes for the overall budget. No, you against it.
Okay. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman, no.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson is yes.
Representative Austin.
Representative Austin is yes.
Representative Black.
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett, no.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson, no.
Representative Erlanger.
Representative Erlanger, no.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken. Representative Haken.
Representative Haken, no.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, no.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Jackson, no.
Representative Kelly.
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, no. Representative Lombardi.
Representative Lombardi, no.
Representative Preet.
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio.
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember, no.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, no.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan voting no.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli, no.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill votes yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay, the vote tally is 16 yes, 13 no.
And Representative Flanagan, the overall budget passes. Moving on to item 5, to consider and if appropriate, approve the recommendations of the Board of Finance of an appropriation of $60,842 to the Open Space Fund budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Representative, or Mr. Moderator,
Representative, go ahead.
Black Ways and Means met, and that was part of our approval of the Board of Finance recommended budgets. So I'll put that in the form of a motion to approve the open space appropriation.
Motion on the floor to approve. Is there any, Representative Flanagan, is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion from the public? All right, hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Vote yes for this item to approve, no against.
Okay, Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger votes yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Freet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
They're nasty people. And I'm not gonna let them get away with it.
I'm sorry, Representative Sumro. Did I hear?
Oh, Sumro, yes.
Okay, thank you. Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill, yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells, yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Unanimous, this item passes. Thank you, Representative Flanagan. Item number 6, to consider and if appropriate, approve a recommendation of the Board of Finance of an appropriation of $14,926 to the Sewer Assessment Fund budget for fiscal 2020, 2021.
Mr. Moderator, Representative Black here again, Ways and Means met and recommended approval for this. So I put this in the form of a motion for the whole RTM.
Motion on the floor to approve this item. Is there any discussion from the RTM? Is there any comments from the public? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Voting yes in favor, no against.
Okay, Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly votes yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Toohill.
Yes, this is Frank Toohill. I vote yes. Thank you.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes no.
Okay. So we have 28 yes, 1 no.
Okay, the item passes. Item number 7, to consider and if appropriate, approve the recommendation of the Board of Finance on an appropriation of $68,500 to the Board of Education Special Fund Budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yep, go ahead, Representative Toohill. Okay.
Thank you, sir. It's Representative Frank Toohill speaking. The RTM Education Committee heard this special fund. It's the Adult Education Fund that we're taking up at the moment. It was heard on April 6th by the committee, and it was voted on May 4th. And the vote was totally unanimous. The vote was 7-0, $68,500. And I put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Dennis Flanagan here. Any comments from the RTM? Any comments from the public? Again, this will be a roll call vote. Vote yes for it, no against.
Okay, Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Sorry, Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly votes yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Thank you. Representative Frank Toohill votes yes.
thank you. Representative Wells,
Representative Wells votes yes.
unanimous.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here, the item passes. Moving on to item 8, to consider and if appropriate, approve the recommendation of the Board of Finance on appropriation of $522,053 to the Board of Education Daycare Fund budget for fiscal 2020-2021. Representative Toohill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is also called the School Age Child Care Fund, and it was heard again by the RTM Education Committee, and it was passed, and the vote was 7-0. And I put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Moderator.
Motion on the floor to approve the item. Is there any discussion from the RTM? Is there any comments from the public? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. A vote of yes approves it, a vote of no disapproves it.
Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative, yes.
I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes, Representative Preet, yes.
Thank you. Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik.
He's talking.
Do you hear
There
me
he
now?
goes. Yeah, there you go.
There.
Oh, he just muted.
Sorry about that.
was that a yes?
That was a yes.
Okay, thank you. Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Toohill, yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells, yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Yeah, okay, the item passes. Representative Flanagan, the item passes. Item number 9, to consider and if appropriate, approve the recommendation of the Board of Finance an appropriation of $4,607,967 to the wastewater treatment plan budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Hello, Mr. Moderator, Representative Black. Sewer Utility Fund was heard by Rules and Ordinances, and this was part of our recommendation for approval of the budget as approved by the Board of Finance. So I put that in the form of the motion and ask the full body to approve this amount as the budget for the WPCA. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve this item. This will be a roll call vote also. A vote and for yes to approve, a vote no to disapprove.
Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Toohill, yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay, Representative Flanagan, the item passes. Item number 10, to consider and if appropriate, approve a recommendation of the Board of Finance and an appropriation of $367,026 to Animal Control Fund budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Who heard this? Representative Flanagan here.
I heard it.
That, this is Representative Conklin, who's already falling asleep, excuse me. This was part of all the budgets heard by the Public Services Committee and was voted unanimously to accept. So I would put that in the form of a motion.
Okay. Any comments from the RTM? Any comments from the public?
Mr. Moderator, Lisa
Representative
Arpin,
Arkin?
Town Clerk.
Go ahead.
We have a raised hand by someone who's on the phone. 3893 is unmuted if they want to talk.
Okay, with that individual, please state their name and address.
Mr. Moderator, I think it's Carolyn Sires, if I'm not mistaken. Carolyn, are you 3893?
Representative Sires, is that you?
It is her number, but I
Okay,
don't think she meant to put her hand up.
Okay, since there's no
We'll
further,
assume no.
no, since there's no further discussion on this item, roll call vote. Vote yes in favor, no against.
Okay, Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Balfone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin, Representative Austin,
Sorry, yes. Representative Austin, yes.
thank you. Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Freet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember, yes.
Representative Sires, Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
thank you. Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan votes yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli, yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill, yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells, yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Representative Flanagan, it was a unanimous vote. And then moving on to item 11, to consider and appropriate approve recommendation of the Board of Finance on appropriation of $1,643,066 Human Services Special Revenue Fund budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Alphone. This is part of the admin services budget that was just previously approved this evening. This is a transfer of the approved funds into the Human Services Special Revenue Fund. I would make a motion to approve this item.
Motion, Representative Flanagan, a motion to approve this item. Is there any discussion from the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan.
Representative Sullivan, go ahead.
Yeah, I won't belabor this, but this fund is an example of an account that I would have liked to see more money come out of fund balance. If I'm reading the budget correctly, a $39,000 fund balance was brought forward into this fund out of a $1.6 million budget, knowing that people are going to be facing trouble and struggling and certain uncertainties moving forward. I could hope this budget would get a little bit more of a boost, but we can't do that here on the RTM. So I'm actually going to vote no for this fund.
Okay, anybody else from the RTM wishing to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, Representative Black.
Go ahead, Representative Black.
Fund balance that's referred to here is their own fund balance, correct, Chairman Alphone?
Representative
Alphone, yes, that is correct.
So Representative Sullivan, if they want to increase a draw on their fund balance, that money is available to them. I think it would be pushing on an open door. That's essentially their reserve and emergency fund.
This is Representative Sullivan. Thank you for the clarification. I didn't read the budget correctly.
Representative Flanagan, or any comments from the public?
Mr. Moderator, real quick, just to touch on that.
Go ahead.
That was looked at admin services as far as taking more additional funds from their fund balance, but it was decided that the it's a little over $300,000 that they have in their fund balance or their reserve was best left there and not taking any more out to reduce the tax burden to the town, just because of the circumstances and the pandemic that we're going through. We wanted to make sure that they had as much funds available to them as needed.
Okay, this again will be a roll call vote. Vote yes in favor, no against.
Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember, yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
What about Representative Stepanek?
Yes. Representative
Oh.
Stepanek, yes.
He almost got away.
I tried.
Representative Sullivan?
I'll vote yes. This is Representative Sullivan.
I already wrote no down for you.
Got to keep you on your toes.
I have you. Okay, yes. Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli, yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill, yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells, yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay, this item carries, it passes.
Mr. Moderator, this is Ray Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Ray Ingraham again. Item 12, the dates are wrong, so read them correctly. It has 1920.
Should be 2021, right?
Yeah. And then item 13, it's been brought to me that we voted on that last year, so it doesn't have to be voted on again till next year. I normally say just wing it, but it'll cut down on one more roll call.
Thank you.
We voted on it in the last budget cycle.
Okay, all right. So we're on to item 12 now, to consider and if appropriate, approve the recommendation of the Board of Finance of an appropriation of $328,000 lease fund budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Mr. Moderator, Representative Black in Ways and Means heard this item and recommended approval to the full RTM, so I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to approve this item. Any discussion from the RTM? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. A vote for yes for in favor, a vote of no against.
Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, no.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio, yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember, yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill voting yes.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells voting yes.
Okay, we have 28 yes, 1 no.
Okay, the item passes. Moving on to item 14, to consider and if appropriate, approve the recommendation of the Board of Finance to the RTM that salaries for the register of voters are increased by 2.5% for each year of their 2-year term of office.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Alphone. This is part of the admin services budget that was previously approved this evening. It was heard in committee and approved unanimously with a 7-0 vote. And I'd put that forward in form of a motion to the full RTM.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. Is there any discussion on the motion from the RTM? From the public? Okay, again, roll call vote. Vote yes in favor, vote no against.
Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman, yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Austin,
Representative Austin, yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin,
Representative Conklin, yes.
Representative Everson,
Representative Everson, yes.
Representative Erlanger,
Representative Erlanger, yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham,
Sorry. Representative Ingraham, yes.
thank you. Representative Jackson,
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Kelly,
Representative Kelly, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Lombardi,
Representative Lombardi, yes.
Representative Preet,
Representative Preet, yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Sember,
Representative Sember, yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, yes.
Representative Sullivan,
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli, yes.
Representative Toohill,
Representative Frank Toohill is voting yes.
Representative Wells,
Representative Wells is voting yes.
unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Before we adjourn on item 15, I want to thank everybody for their work on this, putting this budget together. There will be a meeting, an RTM meeting on June 10th. We may luck out. Maybe we won't have to do a Zoom, but there's some items that have to be voted on before July 1st. So we will definitely have a meeting in June. Okay, item 15, adjournment. Representative Torelli,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
I second. Representative Sember.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good night.
Excellent.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at branfordtv.org.